Chiefs Kingdom has started its own history class.
This is a legendary run by a legendary team. You got to enjoy every minute of it.
Let's find a way to win the ball game.
Tagovailoa is in
Trouble, sacked, pass is caught, touchdown! Stone Cold gets the big sack.
The Chiefs are 10-1 through 11 games for the fourth time in franchise history. And thanks to the Packers' win last night, the Chiefs can lock up a playoff spot today in another edition of Raider Week. We're 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, happy Red Friday. You have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was good. It was just Tammy and me. Our big family one's tomorrow. But it was great. And then watching Miami lose, the Chiefs can actually, you mentioned, wrap up a playoff berth. It would be the first time a team has done so with 5 weeks to play since the 2009 Colts.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it can do it in November. There's other stats with that, but it'd be fun to do it today. Why not?
Well, I'm thankful for this team. Thankful for
Very
you.
much. Yeah, and you too, brother.
Also thankful for Patrick Mahomes.
And by the way, our little beanie hats here, this is in for honor of you.
Oh, yeah, okay.
For what? Holiday Touchdown, which is your movie debut.
So the movie, the Hallmark movie, I'm sure all of you have heard all about, is debuting tomorrow on the Hallmark Channel, Saturday night. I do have a cameo in the movie. Look out for that. It'll probably be terrible, but I am
Do you
in
wear
the movie.
this exact beanie?
I'm suited up because we're up in the club level for like a Christmas party is the idea. Yeah. Anyway, watch out for that. Holiday Touchdown debuting tomorrow. I'm very thankful for Patrick Mahomes, though, because what a game-winning drive last week. I understand we wish we won by like 20, but with the game on the line, Patrick Mahomes comes in there, leads a game-winning drive, we win the game. And it said a lot about the standard here in Kansas City because we have all these injuries, circumstances, getting everyone's best shot. It doesn't matter. The standard remains the same, right? Patrick talked about that earlier this week. Take a listen.
Just having a standard every single day, I think you would think it would be a different challenge, but I think with the guys that the coaches have brought in, the guys understand that this is how we work, this is how we practice, this is how we get after it on a day-to-day basis. We're probably in the building more than a lot of teams. We're probably on the practice field more than a lot of teams, but it's a standard that we've kind of upheld, and that starts at the top, and it goes throughout the entire team. And so whenever you get in these tough times, you know that we've been through this together. We've held ourselves to these standards that we're going to go out there and win. And I'm one of those leaders, but there's many of them. It's not just me. I don't have to talk a lot, honestly, because we have a lot of leaders throughout the entire team that kind of hold themselves accountable.
Yourself, right? You're not like Ralph Jones. Okay.
All right, great stuff there from Patrick Mahomes. I want to keep this conversation going here with a guy who lived this, and Mitchell Schwartz. Mitch, what's going on?
Good to be here. I didn't quite live, Red Friday games like this, but lived a different fun life.
You know what the standard is like, though, in that locker room? I mean, throughout your career, peaks and valleys, the team is struggling, there's injuries, whatever. The standard remains the same. What was it like being a part of that standard?
Well, it's cool. I mean, that's the greatest thing coming to play for Coach Reed is you know what the expectations are. He brings in the right people. He doesn't have to tell you every single day. Those are the expectations. And then you've got a great quarterback. You got a great tight end, great defensive lineman, and you bring in other guys to reinforce the culture. And you just get to live it every day. And if guys are doing things that you don't like at your position or offensively, defensively, you can always say something. It's encouraged and kind of required from the leaders to do so. And it just makes for a great work environment because you don't have someone on you all the time, but you also know that, hey, we're fighting for something bigger. Obviously, the culture is a little different even than when I was here. We were chasing that Super Bowl. Now it's about maintaining them and maintaining that level of excellence every year. So it's even more difficult, week to week for these guys.
Number 71 numbers available. We might suit you up today. Let's just be honest. Talk about the standard, but Carolina sacked Pat 5 times last week. That was a career high or tied a career high. Talking about protection against these guys, Max Crosby or Wilson, and a wide 9 technique. Walk us through that and why that's so difficult and why it may be the biggest key today.
Yeah, it is tricky. It just creates a lot of space, and playing offensive tackle, it's all about that intersection point between you and the quarterback and the defensive lineman. And so it feels like that intersection point gets deeper and wider and crazier. And so it's almost like that, sports car out on the street. It's going to get 0 to 60 immediately. Well, if it's close to you, you can kind of see it. The further away it gets, you're like, oh man, that thing's going to be going by me at a rapid speed. You think about, the block kick from a few weeks ago. if those guys are lining up outside, running with that kind of speed and power, well, that, tight end on the field goal unit gets blown up. You don't want to be that tackle who gets blown up. So it creates some awkward angles when you got a guy like Max who's got the get off. He's got the snap count timing to get to the corner to bend it. Creates some difficulties. Obviously, you mentioned Wilson, more of a power guy. And I think that's what's been going on the last few weeks, really all season. Just compression in the pocket, making Pat feel uncomfortable from different spots. It's more consistent with the tackles this year, unfortunately. So just creating a more consistent pocket. The pocket doesn't have to be any specific way. It just has to be consistent. And I think we've kind of lost that consistency down in and down out, that Pat doesn't always know what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like.
What about Raider Week? Because you grew up in the Bay, all about Raider Nation. We talk about Raider Week. Fans talk about Raider Week. What's Raider Week like in the locker room for a player?
Well, it's big. I mean, you come in and, on all the insignia, all the playbooks and stuff, it says Raider Week. Back in my day, we had UB. He'd just be screaming Raider Week at us in that first Blitz meeting. So you knew. As someone, if you don't know about the history of the NFL, you don't know about the Raiders, when you come here, you quickly learn. And so it's always fun. I mean, we saw it last year, unfortunately, or fortunately, you could say. It kind of kicked us in the butt and led us some better things. But it doesn't really matter how these teams are doing. It's an exciting week. They're going to bring their all. There's been some stuff with the coaches the past few years. There's been some stuff with the players. And, obviously Pat and Max have a fun little competition there on the field, too. So it's a big week. It's always fun. You always know you're going to get their best. And for the most part, the games are always competitive.
Yeah, 7 straight home wins for the Chiefs. The last loss was to these guys on Christmas last year. I want to ask you another football nerdy question, though, and it's the games or stunts that so the wide nine, I'm up at night, thinking about it. But then the TT or TE stunts and how the tackles and work, how can they do better today against that?
Yeah, so in our world, whatever letters first is the guy that goes first. So TE, the tackle goes first, the end loops around. The ET, the end goes first, the tackle loops around. So those ETs are the ones that have been getting us. That's where the defensive end lines up in that wide nine. Now, he shouldn't really be able to do that from a wide nine. He probably gets tighter, and that should be an indicator for the offensive tackle. Hey, he's tighter on me. I don't need to set as deep. I don't need to set as wide. Something feels a little different. And the more depth you create as a tackle off the ball, the more space you give that defensive end to run inside. And you put your guard in a bit of a pickle because he's blocking his tackle. It's an ET. And so you, as the tackle, have to protect your guard on those ETs. Now, the way Juwan sets, the way our tackle set, it's a little bit deeper. And so he creates that space. We create that space that allows for ETs to happen. And even when you feel like maybe I think there was one of the sacks where Juwan squared up on his defensive end. So you're thinking as a tackle, yeah, it's an ET. I didn't get to send him to Trey. We didn't get to pass it off, but we would call it manning it. I manned it correctly, and I stayed square on it. Well, Trey gets picked. Trey's trying to chase his guy over the top, and now Pat's feeling an offensive tackle in front of him, so he starts leaving the pocket. Trey's trying to, run his butt off and block his guy, trips on the defensive end, falls down, looks terrible for him, but that's not on him at all. So even when you're, quote unquote, pick it up or man it, it's still not comfortable. It's still not clean. So from the offensive tackle perspective, cool down a little bit. Don't need to jump the snap count quite so aggressively every time. Stop creating that space. If it's firm and flat and wide inside, Pat's going to make it right. And you have to trust that he's going to make you right at the top of the pocket.
God, it's such a science, and that's why I tell fans
when they go to. It's art too, though, because you got to feel it. Like there's he's aligned here, so you got to set here. Like there's that art and there's that science. They come together, and that's what makes it so fun.
Speaking of games and stunts, you're a girl dad now.
Yeah.
You've added this to your resume. How was it like being a girl dad?
It's great. I mean, don't get to play too many games quite yet, waiting for her to start crawling and walking, but she eats like me. She eats like a lineman right now, which is great for us because, she sleeps well too, so she's sleeping through the night. But no, it's awesome. She's a lot of fun. She's a perfect kid. She's really easy. She has great temperament. She's just fun to be around, and getting to watch her learn the world and figure things out. That's a pretty cool experience.
Well, happy for you.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
Last question, we'll let you go. You're doing the drumming here today, right?
Yeah.
So you've done this before, I think, haven't you?
I have, yeah, one time.
Are you nervous? How you feeling?
I am nervous. This is not generally my forte to create energy of this sort. We have offensive line-wise guys like Trey to kind of create the energy and create the passion and the physicality. So I'm going to have to find a way to do that. Last time I did it, It was the 13-second Buffalo game.
Okay.
So I have 1-for-1 good track record. We'll see if we can continue that today.
Yeah, hopefully not as stressful today, but either way.
Well, with this team, I can almost guarantee it'll be stressful.
Yeah, most likely. Well, Mitch, you're the best. Obviously, you were an awesome player, but you sticking in Kansas City and doing all that you're doing now in the community is just a really awesome thing. So thank you, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, it feels like home. It is home.
Have fun today.
Thanks.
What an awesome guy, huh?
Yeah, and they have this little girl now. And Brooke, his wife, Mitchell's wife, as good as Mitchell is, Brooke's even better. She's awesome. And they have this new little girl. It's so cool. So, yeah, they're terrific.
Yeah, just so happy for him. I love when these guys, they retire, but they stick around in the community. Just says everything about Kansas City and Chiefs Kingdom. He's a great representative.
Well, he
of
puts
that.
thing in perspective, too, about the ET stunt and the TT, the TE. And everybody kind of got on Trey this week. Well, you know what? Trey's – he had to deal with, the tackle. They got to work in concert. And it's why I always tell everybody, go to St. Joe and watch the linemen. Don't follow the ball. Watch the linemen. There's such a science to it, and we're seeing it. Like when Pat gets sacked 5 times, there's a reason.
And football is hard. It's the number one thing I take out of that.
Particularly for offensive linemen. I've said this before. I'll say it 100 more times. Find me a good team with a bad offensive line. It'll be the first one.
Let's talk about this matchup a little bit, huh? So the Raiders have lost 7 in a row, but like we talked about with Mitchell, if last year taught us anything, we can't take these guys lightly here today, right?
Not at all. In fact, it's Antonio Pierce, who their head coach, Spags loves him. He was Spags' defensive captain on their Super Bowl team in the late 2000s. And Spags, told me he'll have them ready. He'll have them ready to go. They'll figure out a way to win. We know we're going to go through some of their assets here. But, yes, if people are coming here thinking it's going to be a wipeout, forget it. This is going to be all the Chiefs want. They need to take care of business and play great.
Now, one area the Raiders have really struggled is their turnover margin. They're minus 17 in the giveaway takeaway this year, by far the worst mark of any team in the NFL. They've forced just 5 turnovers all season. That's last in the league. And they've committed 22 giveaways, most in the league. Turnovers have been an issue for these guys all year long, really on both sides of the ball.
It's nuts. They've lost 10 fumbles, which is the worst in the league. The Chiefs have only lost 3. That is the best in the league. But the Chiefs have not been taking the ball away. People go, they want blowouts. The Chiefs only have 9 takeaways. And it's hard to blow teams out. I was just talking to Mike Borganzi, who works very closely, of course, with Brett Veach. It's hard to blow teams out in the NFL or any level of football if you don't take the football away some. And so it would be nice today if the Chiefs could capitalize on that minus 17 and take the ball away, create short fields, take some juice out of these guys, help the offense out a little bit.
For what it's worth, though, Gardner Minshew was responsible for 14 of those 22 giveaways, and Minshew's obviously not playing today. Broke his collarbone last week. He's out for the season. It's instead Aiden O'Connell at quarterback today. We've seen him a few times now. What stands out to you about O'Connell?
Steady, really steady, and we saw it here last year. He did not complete a pass for the second, third, and fourth quarters, and he won the game.
Steering wheel pounder.
Oh, man. I just sat there and stared, and then I pounded it but he's steady. And they'll play to the run game. He has 2 really good receivers to throw to. I know you're getting to that next. And those guys can catch intermediate routes and stay on the field. They're really good. So he has places to go. He just hasn't had the reps. They pull him out of the being on IR, and you're going to throw him out there and let him rip. So, his window just opened. So it'll be interesting to see how sharp he is. But with these receivers, and if they get any semblance of running game, even though they have Zamir White out, then he's good enough to figure out to win this game just like he did last year.
I want to back up, though, because I think you're right. He started 4 games this year, but has been on IR since week 7 with a broken thumb. And he didn't practice at all while he was on IR. He came back this week to practice, and it's a short week, so he was only at practice 2 days. Curious if he's rusty at all, especially on a cold day.
He has to be. It'll be amazing if he's not. And, again, they want to stay on the field. Something they haven't done very well, but he's got places he can go to be honoring in this game. But again, he's consistent. He's not going to make egregious mistakes, and that gives him a chance to win the game.
He does have weapons, though, like you mentioned.
Oh, boy.
So Jacoby Myers having a nice year, and he had a great game last week against Denver. Caught 10 passes for 120 yards last week. And Brock Bowers, what a season he's having as a rookie for them out of Georgia. Only C.D. Lamb has more catches this year than Brock Bowers. He's the whole focal point of their offense so far.
Those 2 guys, it's Myers and Brock Bowers. in the last 3 games combined have had 66 targets.
Wow.
So think about that. That's 33 a game each way. 33 on the average each way. And they both have had 100-yard receiving games in the last 2 weeks. But Bowers is a stud. You mentioned the 74 catches. He will shatter Sam Laporta's rookie tight end record that he set last year with the Lions. And then before that, it was Keith Jackson in the late 80s. So it tells you the level that Brock Bowers is playing at. And he's athletic. He's a younger version of Kels, meaning he's a mismatch problem. He's bigger than your corners, and he's skilled and more skilled. I would say more skilled than your safeties, but creates problems there. And then Jacoby Myers is just, with New England, he was good. With the Raiders, he's better. I can think of the game in Las Vegas on October the 22nd, and he was a menace. There's going to be another touchdown. They're going to go up by 2 scores right over here, and George Karlaftis tipped the pass, and Jacoby Myers is jumping up and down because he knew it was going to be a touchdown. So those 2 guys are a problem.
Now here's the good news. I'm curious if you thought this too and realized this. Every member of the Chiefs defense, from Spags to like Chris Jones and Drew Tranquill, everybody I saw this week had like a look in their eye.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where they were not happy with how last week went. And it's almost a good thing it's a short week because they're ready for this game, I think, today to show they're a much better defense than we saw last week.
Well, they couldn't get off the field on 3rd down. That bothered them. Now, they did have the red zone stops, and I'm going to allude to that here in a second. But they couldn't get off the field. They couldn't get 3 and outs against Bryce Young. And ever since the end of the regulation against Tampa Bay, when it went to overtime and Baker Mayfield and the play to Palmer, it was right here behind us, that kind of put them on they want to get their confidence back and get some swag back to this defense. We'll see if they can do it today.
Hopefully they can. You mentioned the red zone. They were very good in the red zone last week. Held Carolina to 2 of 6 in the red zone. That's the difference in the game. But still, they know they can be better, and hopefully that begins here today.
And Spags calls them 4-point plays. It's going to be my point of emphasis going into the Charger week on my minutes with Mitch that I've seen and heard all around the Midwest. But anyway, he calls them 4-point plays. It's the 4 points they didn't get by settling in the red zone for 3. And so they chart it, make a big deal of it. It's the reason they won the game against Carolina. Any one of those 4, to your point, and the Chiefs lose that game.
It's a different game.
4 points.
I want to ask you about this Raiders defense, number 29 in scoring defense in the NFL. They've struggled this year. They've allowed at least 27 points in 4 straight games. But like we talked about with Mitchell earlier, they still have Max Crosby. And Max Crosby is a problem we have to be ready for.
And Wilson on the other side, he's given us fits as well. Spillane at linebacker's tough. The stat that came up to me that's surprising when you look at their team, you think 7 straight losses. They don't give up big plays. They are 6th in the league at 20-plus plays allowed in the past 8 games, meaning top 6. So you got to earn it against them. And that means to earn it, you have to protect. And then you have to sustain long drives. We know the Chiefs have done that, being best in the league on 3rd down. But this is a Raider team, again, that can be feisty. They got enough dudes to do that, and you're going to have to be crisp on 3rd down and run the ball.
Good news is the Chiefs' offense got rolling a little bit last week, I think. They came away with points in 6 of 8 offensive possessions. Could have been better in the red zone. If they do, it's a blowout last week. I think they were 2 for 5 in the red zone.
Yeah, that bugged Pat, too.
Yeah, well, hopefully he can take out that frustration here today. But we got contributions from everybody, which was good to see.
Yes, absolutely. And, realize today could be an incredibly historic day, and it might be on one single play.
Okay.
You could have, on a single play, if Patrick Mahomes, his first touchdown pass of the day is to Kelsey, Pat will take out Len Dawson for the all-time career touchdown passes, and Kelsey will take out Tony Gonzalez, who's straight across the field from us, as the most touchdown receptions in franchise history. All could happen on one single magical play. So let's hope it's better.
How lucky are we that we're witnessing this?
As a play-by-play guy, and you're right there by me, shoulder to shoulder. You want to make it hit because it's a lifetime. You'll go 2 lifetimes and never see a play like that.
It's pretty cool. I'm fortunate for those guys. Thankful for them. The real question, though, Mitch, how many touchdowns is Noah Gray going to have here today?
Well, the old song, they call him Mr. Touchdown. That's what I said last week in the play-by-play. But honestly, seriously, he is becoming more of a force, and it's the way the Chiefs are using him. They use him in motion. He'll play a tight wing, a slot, an inline tight end. But what I really like is when he lines up at fullback, either motioning there or lining up there originally, because he's become even a more skilled version of Kyle Juszczyk in the fact that he can attack the second or third level. He lined up as a fullback here on his second touchdown. And so a defense has to respect that. If you just have an inline or a regular blow people up fullback and is not a threat in the passing game, it changes things for the defense. Now they have to respect Noah as a fullback at the second and third level of the passing game.
Just happy for him. In 58 career games before the Bills game, he had 4 career touchdowns. Now he has 4 in his last 8 quarters. It's amazing. Hopefully he keeps that going here today. I want to ask you about the game-winning drive last week as well. Kind of touched on this earlier, but I understand we wish we were winning by more and didn't need the game-winning drive, but in retrospect, it was almost a good thing.
That's not an issue for Detroit, right? They had a 23-7 lead, but they hang on to win 23-2. But that's okay. They didn't blow anybody up.
Neither here nor there.
I just didn't know.
But you can't practice those things, and to have a real game situation where, most teams would be shell-shocked, I think, or pointing fingers or hanging their heads. The Chiefs didn't do that. They went out there and won the football game. That's what great teams do.
You interview our guys a lot, so do I. And you ask them, what's Pat like in those situations?
Yeah.
And what's the sideline like in those situations? And a lot of it has to do, we've played so many big games. I don't mean that to be cocky, but what's the answer is always calm. There is never panic, never panic. And let's give Justin Watson some credit because wide receivers are asked to block. He blocks 2 guys on Pat's 33-yard run, 2 guys. And he does it without creating a penalty. If you go back and watch the video, Justin Watson sees that he's behind the back of the guy. He kind of just puts an arm in front. So they're not going to call a penalty on that. Like that. And it's a legal play. And then he gets the next guy. When he got the next guy, that allowed the 33-yard run. Those are the little things that happen, and wide receivers in this offense are asked to block, and Justin Watson helps this team win more ways than I think we give him credit for.
No stat for that or fantasy points, but that's what helps you win games in the end. We just got the inactives. Look how big this inactives text is. Lots of inactives for both teams today, but a lot of good news for the Chiefs. So I'll start with Isaiah Pacheco. I'll get to Amenahue in a moment. But Isaiah Pacheco is back for the first time since week 2 with that scary ankle injury. Great having Pop back here today.
Absolutely. And now everybody goes, well, how's that going to work? How's it going to work? Well, it's great because you have Samaje Perine, you have Pop, and you got Kareem Hunt. And all 3 of those. Go back to think of the old wrestling when they would tap out and the guy'd bring in a chair and beat him over the head. That's what the Chiefs had. You got the chair beat it over the head guy with Kareem Hunt. You've got kind of the faster guy with Pop. And then you got Samaje Perine who brings a whole new skill set with the claw mask on and wipes them out. So I love the tag team part of it.
You and I are presidents of the Samaje Perine fan club, aren't we?
Big
we love
time.
Isaiah Pacheco too, though. Great having Pop back. And then on the other side, Charles Amenahue is back for the first time since the AFC title game when he tore his ACL. I was so beaten up for him. That was awful. What a bummer. He can't play in the Super Bowl. He's hungry, though. If you just go to his Twitter page, he is hungry and glad to be back.
Wingspan, that's what he brings, length to the defensive front. And he can also play inside and outside, and a chance to spell Chris a bit. So you can bring Chris out for a little bit of rest there. They're not going to overdo it with Pop or Amenahue. There's going to be a pitch count on these guys because those 2 guys are revved up so much that they can actually work against themselves. So, and you got plenty of depth at both of their spots. We got good guys on the defensive front, and we got good guys at running back. So you don't have to use them up. They don't have to play 60 snaps in this game, and that's a good thing.
Now, Spencer Schrader is not going to play here today. Kind of a roller coaster week for Spencer. Had the game winner against Carolina. Hurt his hamstring, though, this week, so Spencer is not going to play. So Matthew Wright is back. He was our kicker back in 2022 for 2 games and actually had the team record for the longest field goal in team history for like a week or 2 with a 59-yarder. Yeah, so Matthew Wright is back with the Chiefs here today.
Here's your stat for Matthew Wright. He has 50 field goal attempts in his career. He has 47 transactions. Cut. Practice squad activated, cut, practice squad activated. He's been with the Steelers 4 times. You mentioned this is his 3rd time with us. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He got a ring for Super Bowl 22. He's 43 of 50. Okay. But we now have a replacement kicker for the replacement kicker. So let's hope the replacement kicker can kick what he needs to do, and hopefully not a game winner. Hopefully the game's already been decided.
I think he wants to take back that franchise record for Butker.
Well, we left the stadium that day. We're talking. It's not Nick Lowry, it's not Jan Stenerud, and it's not Harrison Butker that has our record.
It's Matthew Wright.
It's Matthew Wright. But you know what? But would it take him a week or 2 weeks?
A week or 2
He's
weeks,
like,
yeah.
back it up. 62. I got it back.
Or Wright today is like, I want that record back.
He's won 63 today.
Let's look at the Raiders inactives. They're missing some key pieces today. So they're down 2 of their starting corners for the second straight week. And Jacorian Bennett with a shoulder injury and Nate Hobbs. Those 2 have combined for 937 defensive snaps this year. That's a big deal.
It is. They will, they've got guys that can try to fill in. Jones had the pick 6 right here behind me against Pat last year. He's ornery and confident, talks a lot. But you got a chance to attack these guys basically from hash to boundary.
Looking at their offense, also missing some major pieces. Zamir White at running back is not going to play for them here today. We might have a skewed view of him. He only has 183 rushing yards this year, but back on the Christmas Day game, he rushed for 145 yards against us. He's not playing today. That's a big deal.
Closed the game out. They didn't complete a pass in 3 quarters, but Zamir White went for that 140+. And I keep referring to over my shoulder. I can still see his long run right here that said, we're going to lose on Christmas Day to these guys, and they didn't complete a pass in the whole second half. So, but, again, Amir Abdullah's a veteran. And is Madison going to play?
So that was my next point. Madison's not going to play. So Alexander Madison is their starting running back. He was questionable coming in. I kind of figured he would play because they're shorthanded. He's not going to play today. Big deal.
Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers. That's what it's going to be. All kinds of ways they're going to try to get him the ball. That's how they think they're going to win.
They're banged up right now, not having the season they expected this year. Still a divisional game. It's always a challenge against these guys. But I'll end it like I ended the Week 8 show. I have not forgotten Christmas Day, and it's a great day to return the favor. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Let's go get a victory!